Welcome everyone to the first ever Game Vault review. Today we're going to be diving into both of the One Ring 2nd Edition's starter sets from a total newbie's perspective. For those who don't know, the One Ring 2nd Edition is a tabletop role-playing game from Free League Publishing built from the ground up to immerse players in the world of Middle-earth. Some background on me: I love board games and am a huge Lord of the Rings fan, which has definitely caused me to make some questionable financial decisions. The second I saw the core rulebook and the original Shire starter set on a game store's shelf, I immediately impulse bought it despite having nearly zero prior experience with tabletop role-playing games. Before buying this, my only exposure to ttrpgs was multiple first sessions of the D&D starter set Minds of Phandelver that never got to see second sessions. Besides that, the closest thing I have played are some campaign-style board games like Gloomhaven and the Lord of the Rings Journeys of Middle-earth, as well as hosting way more games of Mafia than any normal person should. As a bit of a disclaimer, all of these thoughts are coming from a completely inexperienced player's perspective. I guess I'll just start with the Shire starter set because that's what I played first. My first ever attempt at this was not long after I bought it, but it ended up being a total bust because right after I'd finished prepping it all my players had to cancel on me like an hour before. But eventually, I was able to get a group together and we had an absolute fantastic time playing it. All the players were new to this system, and all of them except for one were completely new to TTRPGs. As a new player, I did read the entire rulebook, and it works for this set, but I'll kind of have to deep dive my problems with it later because they're more systemic than its issues as a rulebook. It was totally fine for that. But honestly, I just find reading rulebooks super boring regardless of the game, so I'm just very happy that tutorials existed for it on YouTube, and I want to give a special shout out to Will at World's End and Ryan of the North, because frankly, without their tutorial videos, there's a good chance I never would have been able to table this game. The Shire adventures were super fun. I played through them twice, once with my previously mentioned group, and then again with my parents and sister. As a purchase, I absolutely got my money's worth. This was a great product, and I had a ton of fun with it. In this regard, I'd say my only complaints with it were that some of the levels struggled a lot with railroading the players, and I wish there were more side quests outlined in the Shire rulebook. Now, that being said, the Shire rulebook was probably my favorite thing, as it provides great context and tools for the lore master to use. However, I just wish there were more drag and drop encounters in this booklet. There's one really good one early on involving an old lady and her secret mushrooms that you can send the players on a side quest after. But most of the rest of them is just lore. And now, while that lore was fantastic, and I really enjoyed feeling like Gandalf in the Fellowship of the Ring, cross-referencing my many different tomes as I planned out the adventure, it felt hard to practically implement a lot of these beyond monologuing the information to my players. Light spoilers here with regards to some of the Shire adventures when I'm talking about the railroading, but a common problem was trying to figure out how to work around my players getting bad rolls. I kind of had to abuse the succeed with woe mechanic in the game because, for example, a certain mission where you're searching for a lost child, my players just kept getting terrible rolls, and as a new DM, I didn't know what to do. Like, there's no alternative paths or variants that I can do besides, oh, you just don't find the kid, or oh, you get there but she's too late and eaten by whatever monsters, which doesn't vibe at all with the whimsical Shire adventures, especially when I had to meet this same kid earlier in the campaign. With all that being said, and having such few complaints about the product itself, why did they need a new starter set? And it really boils down to, while the Shire adventures were a fantastic product, they were kind of terrible at being a starter set for the One Ring 2nd Edition's role-playing system. Two things that I personally assumed a starter set should do is teach an acceptable amount of core mechanics in a lighter, easier to digest way, and also get the players excited for adventuring in the larger system. When I finished the campaign and was excited to break open the core rulebook, all I felt was overwhelmed. All the new things I'd have to learn and teach my players felt like a whole different system. The only things I remember it making me feel 100% prepared for were the core rules around action resolution involving the feat die, as well as, and this isn't to be shortchanged, it did do an excellent job of getting both myself and the players in the correct mindset for role-playing in the Lord of the Rings universe. With the knowledge I have now about how to play this game, It's kind of crazy how many topics it didn't touch on. To run through them real quickly, this doesn't talk anything about councils, skill endeavors, character progression, shadow, and it barely touches on journeys, and the combat that it explains was so loosely and poorly explained for the DM that I actually learned it from screenshots that I took of Reddit and printed out to bring with me to the session. While it does an okay job explaining how players fight, I did not feel informed as a DM on how to run the monsters or what the different terminologies meant in regards to their roles. A final thing I want to address before diving into the new starter set is a very clear difference between the two, where, as I mentioned, the Shire starter set talks a lot less about how to do the mechanics in the core system of the game. It does put a lot of emphasis, and as a player, you drive a lot of the entertainment from the role-playing and the immersion side of this, where on the flip side, the new starter set, as you'll see more in a second, dives a lot heavier into having fun with the mechanics and the roles and the journeying through this as a set of rules. So that brings us to the new starter set, Overhill and Underhill. When I heard they were making this new starter set, I was thrilled. I had heard from Reddit and various other forums that other players had similar struggles that I did. The Overhill and Underhill starter set promised to fix all that, and after finishing the campaign, I can say with confidence that it absolutely does. It streamlined the rulebook, and frankly boggles my mind how it manages to have the same page length as the Shire rulebook, but also covers way more of the core mechanics that I had previously mentioned were missing from the Shire rulebook. The production value is very high, but at least to me, the books do feel a little noticeably thinner and cheaper, but this product is also half the price, so I can't really be complaining too much. The playtime is also way shorter, and I'd probably say I had a little bit less fun with this product than the Shire one, but again, it's cheaper and it does a much better job as a starter set because I'm way more excited now to play the core rules than I was after the Shire starter set. My only real complaints, the first part is really short, and I'm assuming because it's got to be factoring in how long it would take to teach players or something. Because honestly, if I showed up to a friend's house only to play the first of 3 parts in this campaign, I'd feel a little robbed for my time. I'm assuming it's some sort of agreed upon session 0 where you explain all the rules and then just do this first thing, because it's literally a small conversation at a tavern, and then you do a couple journey rolls, and that's the entire first session. Then you do everything else in the following 2. The one thing I do miss, though, is the in-depth lore that you have from the Shire booklet and the Shire starter set. Again, I don't really feel like I was robbed that in this because it is a much cheaper box with a much shorter adventure. So there's not as much room for all these additional locations and stuff for DM to add. But maybe that's what they're going for, because it does a fantastic job at showing you the potential and making you crave more. So some final thoughts is that as a board gamer who knows nothing about tabletop role-playing games, I really enjoyed the flexibility of ttrpgs. I could also see how individual uninterested players could torpedo a session. With this, it seems a lot more reliant on the team to make it a good time. Really, you get out what you put into it type of thing. A little side tangent, I will say, admittedly, as someone new to all of this, it felt a lot more personal when players tuned out and whipped out their phones, because like, bro, I prepared this for you. This isn't Catan. I can't just like beat you at it now. Like, it felt a lot more personal. Which is definitely something I'm interested to see impacted with time and multiple plays as I dive into the world of tabletop role-playing games. But all in all, my group has had a blast with it. The game flows great. Everyone remained engaged for pretty much the entirety of all the sessions. The new starter set feels great and is a much stronger entry point for new players. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to follow along as 5 20-year-olds try to start and open our own game store. And let me know in the comments down below what you want us to play next, between the new Dungeons & Dragons Heroes of the Borderlands or the Avatar: The Last Airbender RPG starter sets.